Alex Shuriket presents my very emotional parody audiobook, Steamgelion! Roles played by Sanya Ivanov, Shinji Ikari,
Marina Karina,
Misato Katsuragi, Rima Kagevich, Ritsuko Akagi, Commander Ivanov, Gendo Ikari, Raya Ayanama, Rei Ayanami, Ali Katzman, Aida Kensuke, Toля Suzuha, Todzi Suzuhara,
Hanka Litvinenko,
Asuka Langley,
Roma Kazin,
Rodzi Katzi. First season, 6th episode. Having almost professionally completed the jump, Ali quickly reloaded the film and examined the sky. Sanya already met the ground 300 meters north of him, and Tola landed almost half a kilometer in the same direction. But Alec was not interested in his friends now. Having found Comet parachute with a glance, Alec rushed to meet her.
Oh, Marina is preparing for landing.
She said admiringly, shooting a cinema on the go.
It's awesome.
Comrade Kalina met the F with her feet and was immediately covered by the parachute. Meanwhile, Alec had already run up to her and, continuing to shoot, said,
Oh, Marina is fighting against the parachute. This is amazing.
Comrade Kalina somehow got out from under the parachute and, brushing herself off, said,
You could help, by the way.
Oh, by no means, out, Marina! I dare not say that a woman like you needs the help of a man!
Comrade Kalina blinked a couple of times, weighing Alex's phrase. Deciding that it was most likely just a praise, she smiled and looked around, suggested.
Let's go, Alec. I see that Sanya has already been met there.
Alec looked towards Sanya and hesitantly said,
Americans? No, it's the local fools playing the fool. When they played a trick on me like that, I almost shot them.
Finally, all four paratroopers gathered together. The soldier, who had been talking to Sanya during the exam, smiled at Comrade Kalina and asked, How did you get here, Comrade Kalina?
We found problems,
she said dryly. You are a brave fighter. The soldier nodded at Sanya. It would not hurt you to learn from him. He almost shot us at the meeting, unlike someone else. Alec glanced sideways at Comrade Kalina, but there she pretended to be reaching for her submachine gun, and the talkative soldier hurriedly offered to follow him. Behind the bushes growing on the outskirts of the field, a military camp was discovered, but the heroes did not have the opportunity to get acquainted with its features. They were almost immediately invited to take passenger seats in a jeep.
Comrade Kalina is getting into a jeep.
Alec whispered, filming a news story.
It's incredible.
The jeep, driven by a male officer, moved. After driving no more than a kilometer, the jeep climbed a hillock and stopped. Below, from west to east, stretched a 4-branch railway track, from the western side of which we could observe a striking picture. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8! Tola counted dumbfounded, getting up from his seat. 8 armored trains! And a lot more in the back! And he was absolutely right. In fact, in front of the huge platform on which stood the gigantic monument to the leader of the world proletariat, and which was pulled by 4 steam locomotives, as many as 8 armored trains were moving. 4 more steam locomotives were pushing the platform with the disguised robot, and 8 more armored trains closed the escort.
Marina is looking into the distance.
Alex said quietly, not losing Comrade Kalina from the frame.
How does this excite?
Comrade Kalina stood up and, leaning her hands on the windshield, said,
Yes, it's impressive. So, what's next? Will I stop?
The officer driver took out a flask, took a sip from it, grimaced and said, "Not at all, Comrade Kalina. Drivers were given the strictest order not to stop and not to slow down in any case." Comrade Kalina turned to the driver and, swallowing her saliva at the sight of the flask, asked,
But how do we get on the flagship armored train?
"Look to the right, Comrade Kalina. About 2 kilometers from this place, on the second path from us, there's a rail car. I'll drop you off next to it. Of course, you can just sit in the rail car, but given the strictest order for the drivers not to stop and not slow down in any case, I would advise you to make an effort. In this case, the connection with the armored train you need will pass gently." Comrade Kalina looked at the rail car barely visible in the distance. Then she shifted her gaze to the train already approaching the hill. And, rounding her eyes and sit down sharply, she commanded,
Let's go! What the hell are you stopped for?
Finally, 4 of our heroes came to that little rail car. The driver saluted the heroes with a flask and hastily fled. After everyone climbed onto the rail car with a bad feeling, Comrade Kalina put her hands on the shoulders of Alec and Tola and said,
Well, ma'am.
"What?" Tola was outraged. "Now I understand why are you invited us." Comrade Kalina replied only a sly smile. But having cast a glance at the already approaching armada, Tola grabbed the lever and the rail car began to move. Alec and Sane instinctively followed him. Finally, after half an hour of agonizing expectation of a blow, Comrade Kalina nevertheless decided to turn around. Seeing that the train rushing behind was at a distance of 10 meters, and the distance is not changing, she said,
Boys, slow down. The armored train can't catch up with us.
But the boys were so carried away that the connection between the rail car and the locomotive was accomplished only another 10 minutes later. Comrade Kalina exhaled with relief and, wiping sweat from her forehead, stood up to her full height, intending to climb over the railing of the armored train. But then a Red Army soldier with a rifle jumped out of the door of the locomotive and, removing the safety catch, barked, "Tell me the password!" Comrade Kalina looked at her young companions and then, turning to Red Army soldier, beckoned him with her finger. The soldier squinted in disbelief, but stepped closer. Comrade Kalina beckoned him again, motioning for him to bend down. The soldier made an even more incredulous face, but knelt down and put his ear close to Comrade Kalina. She covered herself with her palms and whispered something to the soldier, immediately giggling. The soldier blushed, smiling shyly, crumpled a little and whispered the answer to the password to Comrade Kalina. When he turned away, stood up and, in embarrassment, fingering the rifle, left. Comrade Kalina giggled once more into her palm and, starting to climb over the railing, ordered her companions,
Follow me.
Out Marina is climbing an armored train!
Alec continued admiring and shooting. Inimitable! Sanya crossed his arms over his stomach and stared suspiciously at Comrade Kalina. She, sensing that icy gaze, turned around and asked in bewilderment,
What?
I hope you just had such a perverted password and answer to it, what you were ashamed to pronounce it in front of us? Oh, Marina.
She laughed and said,
It's a military secret. Follow me.
The boys only had to obey. Having made their way through the narrow corridors of the armored train between ammunition gun tires and soldiers, all four came out to the platform with a railing at the rear of the armored train. The flagship armored train, which they needed to get on, followed, keeping a distance of 3 meters. The gigantic monument being transported was also clearly visible from here.
Amazing!
Sanya said, looking at the disguised robot which stood left side forward.
It is not at all as fat as our Soyuz's, and really some kind of special.
Sanya, you're not talking about what we need, Tola said. How can we get on that armored train? If you offer us to jump when I pass!
No!
Comrade Kalina reassured, already holding a long board in her hands.
We don't have to jump. Help me?
Through the board? Tolia screamed in horror, clutching at Sanya.
And what is wrong?
Comet Karina said in surprise and suddenly made a sly face.
Are you saying you can do what a woman will do now?
Tolia did not find what to answer and fold. And then, from the flagship armored train, a wonderful girlish voice with a Ukrainian accent was heard.
Count Marina, hello! How are you?
Everyone turned their heads and saw what a girl in boots and a military uniform with a skirt was standing on the next locomotive. With a rather short skirt. The blonde braid the girl had in the contrary was very long. Count Karina waved back at the girl and shouted.
Anka, hello! What an adult you have become! Just a real Cossack!
Oi, what are you talking about, Aunt Marina?
The girl was embarrassed with a smile. At that moment, Tolia, who had been standing with his jaw dropped for the last 5 seconds, took the board away from Comet Karina and, having built an impromptu bridge between the trains in the blink of an eye, moved to the flagship armored train. Jumping down to the platform, Tolia approached the girl and, holding out his hand to her, hesitantly said, "I'm Tolia. Tolia Suzuhara. Hello."
Hello?
Anka said calmly, accepting the handshake.
Are you a pilot?
No, I'm just a friend of his. We studied together at school. I'm his classmate.
Anka, wait!
Comet Karina shouted and also stepped on the board. Having rather boldly crossed the abyss, she stood next to Anka and, after waiting until Sanya and Alec moved to the flagship, introduced Anka.
Guys, this is Anka Litvinenko, the third pilot. Anka, well, you already know Tolia, with the movie camera with his Alec, who loves when a car drives past. And this is Sanya, he is the second pilot.
Oi, what nice eyes!
Anka said affably, folding her palms and not noticing that Tolia was staring at her like Alec at Comrade Kalina.
Well, let's go to the trip.
Turning around, Anka led everyone to the commander's compartment of the flagship. In this room, among some levers, instruments and maps, a mustachioed officer of Caucasian nationality was found. Count Karina saluted him and said,
I'm glad to welcome you, Comrade Colonel.
Alaikum assalam. The Caucasian replied not too friendly. The stars have arrived. Comrade Kalina, ignoring the unfriendly tone, pulled out some paper from her boot and handed it to the colonel.
Here's an order from the start, Comrade Colonel.
To me, your star and its orders are like asphalt for a golden eagle in the sky. The colonel muttered, but he took the documents. Good thing you didn't put the document in your bra. Comrade Kalina remained silent, preparing to laugh. The colonel unfolded the paper and delved into its study. While this process was going on behind our heroes, someone yelled in a voice familiar to Comrade Kalina. Raising her eyebrows in surprise, she turned around but saw only the back of a thin man in a civilian white suit with a suspicious suitcase in his left hand. Moreover, this suitcase was fastened to his arm with handcuffs. At that moment, the colonel apparently read up to some interesting place and turned purple with anger. Comrade Kalina immediately burst out laughing, pointing her finger at the colonel and exclaiming,
Yes, Comrade Colonel, in the event of an attack, you come under my command.
The colonel almost tore the document and barked, God damn! Get out of my sight or your compartment! Anka pulled Comrade Kalina by the sleeve, and soon all 5 of them moved into the passenger car located in the center of the armored train. Wiping away her cheerful tears, Comrade Kalina calmed down and said,
That was fun. By the way, Anka, are you going alone?
No, Aunt Marina.
Anka replied,
Uncle Roma is with me at the compartment.
Roma? Really, Roma cousin?
Wow! Do you know him?
Oh yeah, I do. Well, where's your compartment?
boldly pushing the door of the compartment to the side, Kalina, barely seeing the man in the white suit huddled in a corner, exclaimed with a mockery, spreading her arms.
Roma-chan, my dear, long time no see.
Flying inside, she sat down close to the new character and hugged him, asked,
Honey, how are you? Stop it, Kalina!
This Uncle Roma objected in a thin voice and somehow freed himself. After that, he climbed onto the top shelf.
I'm not happy to see you! Oh, what a touch you are!
Kalina said with a brutal smile.
Can I have a cup of tea from your glass?
Anka also entered the compartment and said,
Great! You are like old friends!
We are!
Kalina assured, drinking Uncle Roma's tea.
Kageyoshi and I made fun of them every day at school.
At school?
Alec asked quietly, imagining Kalina in her school uniform.
Every day?
Sanya asked with horror. Anka sat down opposite Kalina and said to the young man,
Well, guys, come in, have a seat, be like family.
The guys came in and sat next to Comrade Kalina.
Listen, Anka.
Comrade Kalina continued the conversation, putting her elbow on the table and resting her head on her hand.
You and Roma-chan were traveling in the same compartment. Is he still as hot as before? He didn't try to steal your panties?
Sanya coughed, and Uncle Roma exclaimed indignantly.
Kalina, what kind of nonsense are you talking in front of children? And in general, you have your own compartment. Leave, I'll change clothes. Okay.
Comrade Kalina said, and getting up, she winked at Uncle Roma.
But I won't say goodbye to you.
Incredibly pleased with herself, Comrade Kalina dragged the boys into the next compartment. Less than half a minute later, Anka appeared in the doorway with some kind of bug.
Howd, Marina!
Anka said cheerfully.
I brought you a present from Ukraine, the large Horilka.
Comrade Kalina was even happier and vigorously wrapped her palms.
Anka, you are the best from the West.
Comrade Kalina praised, accepting the gift.
Well done.
Opening the bag, Comrade Kalina found inside a bottle of Ukrainian moonshine and several large packages of lard. Comrade Kalina closed her eyes with happiness and said, putting the bottle on the table.
Here are my frontline 100 grams today.
But at this most solemn moment, a cannon shot suddenly sounded outside.
No good.
Comrade Kalina was alert when she decisively lowered the window of the car and leaned out, looking to the rear.
We have a guest.
Is this a Sam? Sanya was startled. As if the answer to his question sounded artillery cannonade. Comrade Kalina moved herself back in and looking at Anka rejoicing at something, said,
It is. It's chasing us right on the rails.
Grabbing the bottle, Comrade Kalina uncorked it and taking a good sip, handed the bottle to Alec, ordering.
Alec, you are in charge of this. Tolia Gvazalat. Anka and Saya, follow me.
Having made her way to the commander's compartment, Comrade Kalina unceremoniously opened its door and barked boldly.
Well, Comrade Colonel, listen to my order.
I will give you an order now! The colonel snapped. This is my train, my cargo, and my battle!
No, now this is my battle.
Comrade Kalina barked furiously and jumped up to the colonel, shouted in his face.
For disobeying the order, you will go to the tribunal.
Now you will go to some another place! A terrible altercation ensued. Anka was the first to figure out what to do and dragged Sana along with her.
Sashko, let's run! Let them bark here!
Sana accepted his offer and they rushed out of the compartment.
Anka, what's your plan? How did you not guess, Sashko? My plan is head into the robot. But do we have time to heat up its boiler? There is no boiler in my robot. The steam is supplied by the steam locomotives that carry it. How is that possible? The steam comes through the hose. You can disconnect, but when 5 minutes and finish. Whoa!
And the fight outside continued, with Sam, who'd later be called Trump, instead of legs, had giant caterpillar tracks, on which he confidently raced after the railway armada, chasing it. For some reason, there were no weapons in the powerful hands of the Sam. Armored trains fired desperately from those guns, the turn of which was enough to shoot at the rear, but the shells exploding on the body of the Sam did not seem to make any impression on it. And so the Sam reached the rear guard of the convoy, and then something incredible happened. The Sam grabbed the last railway carriage of one of the armored trains with his hand and tore it off the train. When the Sam ripped off the roof of the railway carriage and shook out its contents in the palm, as if looking for something. Fortunately, the Red Army man managed to leave his part of the train, and therefore there were no casualties. Not finding what he was looking for, the Sam took off the next railway carriage. When Sanya and Anka reached the edge of the flagship armored train, the Sam had already gutted almost half of the tail of the armada.
What the hell is it doing?
Anka exclaimed.
Doesn't matter now.
Sanya said, measuring with his eyes the distance from his location to the nearest locomotive pulling the platform with the Soyuz AC.
How can we get there? There are 5 meters, but there are no boards nearby.
Anka looked at the gap between the trains and again rushed into the railway carriage, shouting as she went.
Sashko, hurry up onto something!
Oh my gremlin! Sanya shouted, grabbing the railing and guessing where Anka ran. And she quickly found the red emergency brake handle and boldly pulled it. The railway wheels squealed and the flagship armored train began to slow down sharply. 5 seconds later, the children had already moved onto the locomotive, which gave the flagship a good kick and did not allow it to stop. And so, Anka and Sanya stood on the platform next to the right leg of the Soyuz AC. It, upon closer inspection, turned out to be lined with cardboard. The network of steam pipes connecting all 8 locomotives, with a pipe rising along the leg of the Soyuz AC, was also clearly visible. The Sam had already smashed the last third of the rear guard. Without wasting a second, Anka began to climb the ladder and suggested,
Sashko, follow me! Can we fit in the cockpit together?
Sanya was surprised, starting to climb after Anka.
We can't, we are not officials!
Satisfying the feelings of perverts, let's tell you what, climbing after Anka, Sanya of course could not resist looking up. And this meant what Sanya began to know, one more military secret. Finally, Anka jumped into the pilot's seat and hurriedly pulled on her helmet and fastened her seat belts. Sanya somehow settled down in the little corridor leading from the hatch to the chair. Having begun to manipulate the toggle switches and levers, Anka turned on the radio. After warming up the radio tubes, the strong conversation between the colonel and Comrade Kalina became audible.
Shut up, mountain donkey! You are got from a plane! What? Who is a plane? Am I a plane? I have the first size, look!
Anka took more air into her lungs and shouted.
Out, Marina! This is Halio! Stop all trains! I'm joining the fight!
Anka, well done! Draw your saber, Cossack!
Here, for some reason, the radio fell silent. Sanya asked in surprise.
Anka, did you say Galio? I did, this is my call sign. So, to confuse the enemy.
History is silent about how Comrade Kalina influenced the colonel, but less than 10 seconds had passed before all the locomotives began to smoothly stop.
Well,
Fervently exclaimed Anka.
meet Ukraine!
As if exploding the cardboard shell, the Zeus AC appeared in all its glory, wearing a mace but was hidden under the coat of the fake Comrade Lenin. Crouching, the robot suddenly took off into the air with a gigantic leap, leaving behind a cloud of steam that came out of the disconnected steam line.
Oh my gremlin!
Sanya was amazed. Your robot can jump!
It is Ukraine!
Anka replied proudly and looked at the device, showing the remaining pressure in the system. So far everything was in order, and the children could well hope for a full 5 minutes of functioning. Drawing a giant arc, the Zeus AC landed behind the Sam and turned around to attack it. Behind the back of the Sam, something similar to a satchel was found, on top of which there were 2 large rectangular holes spewing steam. The Sam turned its torso with its chest toward the Zeus AC and prepared to repel the attack. Quickly catching up with the Sam, Anka swung her mace and tried to hit the opponent's head with it. But the Sam blocked the blow with its left forearm and immediately took the mace away with its right hand. Anka barely had time to jump back so as not to get hit with her own mace.
Damn it!
Sanya exclaimed angrily.
You've lost the weapon! I have always been bad with hand-to-hand combat,
complained Anka, retreating from the approaching enemy.
If I had a machine gun now, I would arrange as of style for him. What should we do?
I have an idea! Sanya suddenly exclaimed delightedly and quickly outlined his plan to Anka. Wisely taking note of Sanya's experience, Anka agreed with his plan. And again throwing Zeus AC towards the Sam, she suddenly deftly jumped over the Sam, trampling a section of the rail track. While the Sam turned his torso, Anka grabbed 2 empty locomotives with her robot's hands. And at that moment when the Sam turned to her again, Anka once again jumped over him. And without wasting a second, Anka pushed the locomotives with all her might into the rectangular holes on the back of the Sam. Then she hurried away. An incredibly long 15 seconds passed, and the Sam, waving its arms and as if trying to pull steam locomotives out of itself while spinning in place, deafeningly exploded. The mace thrown by the shockwave darted toward the Zeus AC, but Anka did not blunder and caught her fighting tool with her right hand.
That was awesome!
Sanya was delighted.
I love you, Anka. What, are you a fool or what?
Anka was embarrassed, blushing. And then her gaze fell on the device that showed the pressure remaining in the system. Its pointer began to plummet.
Oops! There is almost no pressure for some reason!
To the platform quickly! Anka gathered up the last of her megapascals and once again took into the air, landing the robot on its transport. As soon as the crash of the landing subsided, the Zeus AC fell to its knees, as if exhausted. Neither the Red Army soldiers happily running out of the bushes, nor Comrade Kalina, nor the colonel, nor even Sunny and Anka noticed how a locomotive separated from one of the lead armored trains and hurriedly rushed somewhere.
To be continued.